you spent a good chunk of your career fighting a platform war with Microsoft in the early, in the PC, the heyday of the PC era. They won that platform war pretty decisively in terms of operating systems. The Mac is, making a nice comeback, but I mean, basically they got a much huger share and they do dominate that platform. Now there are new platforms out there. You've done really well on some of them. The really advanced smartphones and now the beginnings of this tablet thing using the same OS. You have other platforms. You have Google. A lot of people consider to be building multiple platforms. Android, this forthcoming Chrome OS, and of course their whole search ecosystem that they have and their app ecosystem around it through the browser, everything through the browser and through search. And then the social graph, the social networks. Facebook is a platform, and it's very big and it's very popular, and it runs into controversy. And we have Mark coming, and we're going to talk to him about it. So to Karen and I, there's a platform war going on that you're in. You're a big player in it. Google's a player in it. Facebook's a player in it. Do you see it like that?
No.
Okay.
And I never have. We never saw ourselves in a platform war with Microsoft. Maybe that's why we lost. But we always saw ourselves as trying to build the best computers we knew how to build for people. That's always what we were trying to do.
And you never thought about Windows or Microsoft?
Sure, we thought about Windows, but we never thought of ourselves in a platform war. We always thought about how can we build a much better product than them. And I think that's how we still think about it.
And how about Google? How do you think about something has evolved and changed in the relationship between your company and Google, say compared to the day you introduced the iPhone now? What has happened?
Well,
Where are you?
They decided to compete with us, and so they are.
And in phones, in what operating systems?
In phones, sure.
And how about PC operating systems with this Chrome thing?
Well, again, Chrome is not really baked yet, so we'll see.
So and browsers, they're competing with you in a number of areas, right? It's not just
in browsers, I think we all contribute browsers to the mix, but IE still has the biggest share, and Mozilla and IE together dwarf what Google and us do together. So
talk a little about your relationship.
And as you know, Chrome is based on the work that we've done at Apple with WebKit.
Yeah.
So we took a tiny little open source project, and we created what's called WebKit out there.
Right.
And we did an interesting thing for Apple. We put it in open source.
That is an interesting thing for Apple.
And we've done a fair amount of it, but this is the thing that's been the most successful. And almost every modern mobile browser is now based on WebKit. Google's and Android, Nokia's, RIM is coming out with one, Palm's, obviously as well as ours. And it's the heart of Safari, it's the heart of Chrome. And so WebKit has picked up substantial momentum, and now all websites are testing against it. Every mobile website, but even a ton of desktop websites now, because of Safari and Chrome being based on WebKit, are now testing against it. And it's turning out to have a lot of momentum. So although we enabled our competitors to have much better browsers in the mobile space, we've created a real competitor to IE in terms of
if you take all the WebKit stuff
Yes,
together.
if you take it all together, and in the mobile space, it's number one.
So let's get back to the relationship with Google. So the basic competition is on these smartphones and these smartphone operating systems. How do you look at them as a competitor, and how do you feel about the changing relationship? Because it was, Eric was on your board, you had a very close relationship. Can you talk about what you felt happened there besides them competing?
Well, they decided to compete with us.
And
that's it.
We didn't go into the search business.
Well, I want to ask you about that in a minute. But you just woke up one morning and discovered they were going to compete with you.
Yeah.
Did he call you? Did he?
No, they started competing with us and got more and more serious.
So how do you look at the competition now? How do you look at the differences between Android and what you're doing?
Well, right now, if you look at the smartphone market share, the way people define smartphones is a little funny, but Nokia is still number one.
Yeah, but
I know it's.
Let's talk about super smartphones.
Well, again, everybody does this differently. RIM is number 2, we're number 3, Google's number 4, and other is number 5. So that's where it is right now.
Where's Microsoft?
They're in other.
Okay. All right. At the moment.
At the moment. And things can change.
They're doing
But do you consider
we were 0 in 3 years ago.
Okay.
So things can change.
Okay. So those are numbers, but I think what we're trying to get at is do you feel betrayed, or what's your relationship with Google, or are you gonna?
And also.
No, seriously. Are you gonna?
My sex life is pretty good these days. How's yours?
It's great. Thanks for asking. It's great.
Don't ask. But what is the relationship? How do you have a lot of things you cooperate in maps, in search on things. Are you going to remove them from the iPhone, for example?
No.
So how do you look at the relationship?
Well, we want to make a better product than they do, and we do.
Right.
So that's what we're about. We're about making better products. And what I love about the consumer market that I always hated about the enterprise market is that we come up with a product, we try to tell everybody about it, and every person votes for themselves. They go yes or no. And if enough of them say yes, we get to come to work tomorrow. That's how it works. It's really simple. As where the enterprise market, it's not so simple. The people that use the products don't decide for themselves. And the people that make those decisions sometimes are confused. So we love just trying to make the best products in the world for people and having them tell us by how they vote with their wallets whether we're on track or not.
So you're not going to remove Google from the iPhone and the iPad, but are you going to give users more prominently displayed additional choices to it, for instance, now that, because they are a competitor of yours now?
We definitely compete with each other. You know, I noticed in their latest offering, they're allowing their customers to take their iTunes music onto an Android phone, which is fine. They're helping us maybe sell more music. You know, we have some Google properties on our phone. Just because we're competing with somebody doesn't mean we have to be rude.
That's nice. Okay, so last year at our conference, we had a small search company called Siri.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't know if I would describe Siri as a search company.
okay, but it's a search-related company, and I'd like you to describe
would
it.
not- I would
You
describe-
now own them, right?
Yeah, we bought them.
So what?
Why?
And there was a lot of speculation. Well, this company's kind of in the search area, and
No,
Apple
they're not in
hasn't.
the search area.
What are they in? How would you
have-
describe it?
They're in the AI area. Yeah.
So you bought them for their engineers and their patents and their knowledge about AI more broadly.
We like what they do a lot.
Okay.
What do you want them to do for you? What do you?
So you're not going into the search business through them or anything like that?
No, we have no plans to go into the search business. That's not something we know about. It's not something we care deeply about. Other people do it well. See, what's so hard for people to remember, and this is good, I think, is go back to pre-iPhone, only 3 years ago. There was no app market for apps on phones. Phones were sold in truly walled gardens, as you know. You railed against this. And the thought that a developer could make an app for a phone was unheard of.
Well, there were apps for the Palm platform. There were some. Palm didn't operate a store, you're right.
Yes.
But there were apps, and
There were a few
independent
handfuls, yes.
companies would sell them, and you could download
There
them.
were a few handfuls, but there wasn't anything. I mean, there
No,
wasn't
nothing like this.
even 1% of what there is now.
Right.
It's huge now.
Okay.
And also, when you bought a phone, the carrier dictated what was on that phone.
Right.
iPhone was the first phone where we had a new relationship with a carrier that said, carrier, you worry about the network, we'll worry about what's on the phone.
How are they doing with that network
Yeah.
thing here in the U.S.?
Well, they're doing pretty well, actually, in some ways, and they have some work to do in other ways.
And how do you pressure them? When you get so many complaints and
Oh, we meet with them once a quarter, and they're doing a lot. I mean, remember, they're handling way more data traffic than all of their competitors combined, way more. And so they're having troubles, and they're having troubles. Their biggest trouble right now is getting equipment out of their suppliers so they can beef up these networks. But they have the fastest 3G network, and I think it's improving. I wish I could say rapidly, but I think it's, you know, moderate rate improving. And I think they're going to end up with a very good, very fast network that is actually the most robust for handling lots of data, simply because they got there first and they had the problems. I'm convinced that the network, had you put this many iPhones on it, would have had the same problems. But I do think they have some issues,
do
and
you
they're
feel,
working
do you
hard.
feel the need to move to another network?
Well, that's what I was going to. You know, in the UK, you went to 3 carriers. It didn't seem to cannibalize your sales.
Right.
In the U.S., would there be an advantage to be on more than one carrier?
There might be,
There might be.
might be.
So are you going to do it?
The future is long.
How about this year?
How about the short term?
The short term.
We talk about the short term.
Yeah, you know, I can't talk about that stuff. You know that.
Okay, let's talk about the other things you're making, because you talk about you're not going to be in a search. What is your next? You've been here, Dee. You talked about, I guess, a couple years ago, not really doing a phone and not doing a tablet or the tablets. You were sort of
Different of your.
different
you
things.
gave reasons why tablet PC wasn't such a good idea. And one other time you talked about you weren't going to do a phone because you had to sell it through I think you called them the 5 orifices at the
Yeah,
time.
right, 4, I think.
The carriers. I was calling them the Soviet ministries, but
That's
you
right.
had a more colorful phrase. But and you're doing both of those.
Well, you know, we found a way to change that. We found a way to sell the phone that we wanted to sell and define it the way we wanted to define it, have the control that we wanted to have over what was on the phone versus the carrier controlling that. So we were able to change the rules of the game, and that's what got us excited about getting in the phone business.
And when you were talking about it here, you didn't know that you could do that.
No, we absolutely didn't think we could. We had some discussions, and we didn't think we could. But we were able to persuade AT&T, and they took a very big leap on us. I mean, we'd never been in the handset business before. We'd never been in the phone business in any way, shape, or form. So they took a big leap on us and decided they were going to trust us to do the right thing on the phone. And it's worked out very well. So we were able to change the rules of those games, in the game, in the same way in the tablet.
Yeah, talk about
what
the
I
tablet.
remember telling you on the tablet was that handwriting was probably the slowest input method ever invented, and that it was doomed to failure. Well, what we tried to do was reimagine the tablet. In other words, I think Microsoft did a lot of interesting work on the tablet. What we've done is not compete with what they did. We reimagined it, and what we're doing is completely different than what they did. You know, they're completely stylus-based.
Their tablet PC that they have now.
For 10 years.
Yeah, right.
You know, and what we said at the very beginning was, if you need a stylus, you've already failed.
So let's talk about tablets.
And that drove everything. That drove everything. Their tablet PC was based on a PC.
Right.
Had all the expense of a PC, had the battery life of a PC, had the weight of a PC. It used a PC operating system that really needed the precision of the tip of an arrow of a cursor.
Right.
Well, the minute you throw a stylus out, you cannot get that precision. You have the precision of a finger, which is much cruder. Therefore, you need to have totally different software. So you can't use a PC operating system. And you have to bite the bullet and say, we're going to have to create this from scratch because all the PC apps won't work without being rewritten anyway. And so we built a very different animal.
So when you built this OS, this multi-touch gestural OS for fingers, you didn't do it in a tablet right away. You did it in the phone. What was the? I mean, did you consider doing a tablet when you did the iPhone, or was it just a natural progression? The iPhone came out, it was a big hit.
I'll actually tell you kind of a secret.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually started on the tablet first. And I have been able to get rid of the keyboard, type on a multi-touch glass display. And I asked our folks, could we come up with a multi-touch display that we type on, I could rest my hands on and actually type on. And about 6 months later, they called me in and showed me this prototype display. And it was amazing. And I gave it to one of our guys. This was in the early 90s. I mean, early 2000s.
2000s, yeah.
And I gave it to one of our other really brilliant UI folks. And he called me back a few weeks later, and he had inertial scrolling working and a few other things. Now, we were thinking about building a phone at that time. And when I saw the rubber band, inertial scrolling, and a few of the other things, I thought, oh, my God, we can build a phone out of this. And I put the tablet project on the shelf because the phone was more important. And we went and took the next several years and did the iPhone.
So
And then
And when we got our wind back and thought we could take on something next, pulled the tablet off the shelf, took everything we learned from the phone, and went back to work on the tablet.
So where does the tablet go from here? Now, among the many things that people think it's going to do is save journalism. That was, there's a lot of stories about you going to visit publishers and talking about it being the hope of journalism.